All right, folks. So lots going on in the world as always, and we'll be saying what that is and reporting on it, and all along those lines. Uh, a flirtatious moment, writing on ammunitions and a bottle offer clues in a search for the gunman who killed the United Healthcare CEO. So that's one of the news stories that is being pulled and talked about. CVS pulls the executive photos from the website amid the manhunt for the United Healthcare CEO killer. So definitely that's another part of the story and all along those lines. Apparently, the California tsunami danger is real. The 7.0 earthquake is a wake up call to prepare. So, tsunami warning in San Francisco felt like a science fiction movie, is what some people are saying, and all along those lines. So, definitely, it looks like there was a tremor over in that area and all along those lines. So, definitely, lots going on in that space. In the Middle East, Syrian rebels challenge Assad regime on two fronts as new uprising emerges in the south. So, after taking two key cities, Syrian rebels set their sight on Homs. So, definitely that is something else going on as well, as there's definitely a major conflict going on in that area. The Romanian court has canceled the presidential election amid Russian influence fears. So, Romania's top court annals presidential election results, and Romania was the target of aggressive hybrid Russian attacks during the elections, their Security Council says. So, definitely, it looks like that's something else going on as well. And French President Emmanuel Macron vows to name a new prime minister within days. So the French government collapses again after the prime minister is forced out. So definitely there are some people, including some folks in Reuters, they're saying months of chaos will cripple France for years. And Emmanuel Macron says he won't resign France's presidency. And Trump is to attend the Notre Dame reopening as Macron weathers his own political storm. So Notre Dame reopens in Paris after a fire. Some folks are saying it's astonishing. So 5 years after a fire, a shiny Notre Dame is ready to reopen its doors. South Korea's governing party head supports suspending Yoon's power. So South Korea's martial law declaration steers memories in Gwangju. So definitely the Korean Special Force chief defied orders to seize lawmakers. So South Korea's opposition leader warns of another martial law attempt and all along those lines. Israeli military kills four doctors in a raid on Gamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza. No warning for Israeli attack on Gaza's Gamal Adwan hospital, says the World Health Organization. So, one person said, I'm one of the last doctors in this hospital in Gaza. I'm begging the world for help. So, definitely, that's something else that people are reporting about as well. In EU, farmers are fears have materialized with the Mercosur deal, according to one union. So EU agrees with landmark trade deal with South America, and as Trump threatens tariffs, Europe and South America are strengthening their ties. So the European Union and Mercosur trade bloc announced a free trade deal that's 25 years in the making, according to the Associated Press. And nearly 100 former national security officials are alarmed at the prospect of Gabbard leading the intel community. So, one former NATO ambassador called Tulsi Gabbard's Russian view dangerous, and all along those lines. So, definitely, there are some intelligence experts that are apparently being spooked by the notion of Tulsi Gabbard being in charge. And a arsonist apparently set a fire to a Melbourne synagogue. So Melbourne synagogue sustained severe damage in a pre-dawn attack by a masked arsonist. And Netanyahu is blaming the Australian Labor Party's anti-Israel rhetoric for the Melbourne synagogue attack. So definitely, sometimes the views and the attitudes of some of these political leaders can cause action as well, and that's definitely what the Israeli leadership is thinking, and all along those lines. So definitely lots going on in that space. On another space, Amnesty International is slammed over a report charging Israel with genocide. Some folks are saying that that was a double standard, and Germany has rejected Amnesty International's accusation that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. And in a major speech, Keir Starmer says to judge labor on 6 targets. So, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is fighting populism from the lonely center ground. So, Starmer pledges measurable milestones to rebuild Britain after a rocky start. So, definitely that's something else going on as well. And the Syrian rebel leader is saying that their goal is to overthrow the Assad regime. So Abu Muhammad al-Ghalani, um, the leader of the Syrian HTS rebels, steering shock offensive. So some folks are trying to figure out who this gentleman is and all along those lines. So definitely a lot's going on throughout the world. And that's just some of the things that I'm seeing in the world report and all along those lines. So a number of things are going on, and we're having a number of reports about things that are truly taking place around the globe and all along those lines. Trump aides are saying that Pete Hedges still has a chance to be confirmed as defense head. So Trump defends Pete Hedges as he announces more administration picks. And Trump says Hedges' support is strong and deep amid confirmation fight. So multiple Senate Democrats are saying multiple Republicans are waiting for the right moment to say no to Hedges. So we'll definitely see how this all goes as well. And police, like I said earlier, are still tracking the CEO killer of United Healthcare and all along those lines. And definitely Biden aides are considering blanket pardons. So Biden's team is considering blanket pardons before Trump's promised retribution. So definitely Biden team is reportedly considering preemptive pardons for Fauci, Schiff, and other potential Trump targets. So we'll see if this happens or not. And Yummy Mayor Douglas Nichols is expecting Trump to improve security along the U.S.-Mexico border. So migrants prepare for mass deportation. One migrant said, "Should I just kiss my husband goodbye?" So definitely we'll see how this all goes as well. And in Chicago, Barack Obama focuses on bridge building among a public divided by President-elect Donald Trump. So Obama calls political divisiveness one of the greatest challenges of our times, and all along those lines. So Obama hails the power of pluralism as some Democrats are pushing to pass the torch. So lots going on in that way as well. And a California sheriff confirms a school shooting suspect's identity. The motives are unclear, and that was with that kindergarten shooting at the Oroville faith-based elementary, one of the rare private schools to be targeted with gun violence, because I think most of the school shootings in schools have been in public schools. But definitely that's one of the rare cases that a private, and particularly a private Christian school, had been targeted. And an Oklahoma City police officer was charged for slamming an elderly man to the ground, and all along those lines, as that took place in a traffic stop. So the Asian community and a former AG are reacting to the officer assault charges in use of force case, where the gentleman apparently slammed a 71-year-old man to the pavement, and all in that kind of way. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that response and all along those lines. And Musk spent more than $250 million to elect Trump. So Elon Musk spent $250 million electing Trump, including financing the mysterious RBG PAC. So apparently Elon Musk gave $20 million to a super PAC promoting Trump's position on abortion and all along those lines. So it does look like a lot of money was invested in that space. And speaking of Musk and Ramaswamy discussed their DOGE plan with Republicans in Congress. So definitely Representative Cochran compares meeting with Musk and Ramaswamy about DOG to visiting the January 6th defendants in jail. But definitely we'll see how this all plays out, as I guess they're trying to get the support that they can from the folks in the Congress. And last but not least, before I bring Rick in and see who else is here with me, Baltimore firefighters battled a brush fire at a wood recycling yard. So a massive fire ripped through the wood piles in Baltimore's Woodbury neighborhood, shutting down I-83. And commuters in that area can expect traffic delays due to that particular fire. And the DOJ, the Department of Justice, police report points out same cases WREG reported years ago. So Memphis police used excessive force and discriminated against African Americans. The DOG has put out in their latest report on Memphis police and all along those lines. So, and there's a story that Nick might be interested in. Ensure reverses policy, that being Anthem, that would have limited anesthesia period. So Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield calls off decision to cap anesthesia for surgical patients. So they have called off that notion and they backtracked against that controversial situation and all along those lines. And in sad news, 3 climbers from the U.S. and Canada are believed to have died in a fall on New Zealand's highest peak. So 2 missing Americans and 1 Canadian climbing New Zealand's tallest mountain are believed to have perished while they were trying to attempt that feat, and it was on New Zealand's tallest peak and all along those lines. But I'm bringing Rick, see what Rick got on his mind, and we see that in the back of the room we've got Lee Newton Rhodes here as well. We'll see if he comes on camera and all along those lines. He was asking a question, and I don't know how people define it. I guess it's a mass killing, but he was asking how do people define genocide, and I've always heard whether it was slavery or whether it was the Holocaust, that it's usually mass killings, and I guess it's the way
of a specific population, of a specific, group of people.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of killings, I'm looking at the killings of this Brian Thompson guy who was CEO of United Health. And, I've got mixed feelings. I mean, murder is despicable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure he was a completely terrible guy. I mean, he was only in charge of the company for 3 years, 4 years maybe, and so it's a terrible company. But I'm sure they were terrible before he took over. But at the same time, and this is a bad thought to have, but when you hear about a school getting shot up and 20 dead kids and teachers. One of the many thoughts I have about that is, none of those kids deserve that. But what if some lunatic, wouldn't it have been better if you had to have a murderous lunatic that they, went after somebody where some good would result from it. Yeah. And maybe this, terrible murder will result in more scrutiny of this awful company, the worst in the business, and a company that is just huge, was in charge of healthcare for 107 million Americans and turns down 32% of their claims. You want chemo? Maybe you'll get chemo. You want anesthetic during your procedure? Maybe you'll get it. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have to pay $11,000 out of your own pocket for your anesthesiologist.
No. Yeah, that's definitely some thoughts there and everything. And you definitely have to feel for any child that loses their life early, much too soon, and all along those lines. And definitely the parents. I've been told by folks that are parents, including, I imagine my brother would tell me this as well, even though I don't think we've ever had that conversation. But Jacoby, I imagine that would be the hardest thing for anybody to lose a parent, because, not lose a parent, but lose a kid, because you kind of expect your parents to, pass before you pass and everything, and you expect the children to outlive you and everything. So I can only imagine that would be devastating. But both you and Rick are parents, so y'all would know better than I would in that space. But I know that if I ever heard that my nephews had
I'm sure each of us, if offered the choice between our life and our kids' life, we would give up our lives